So think about the stories that we tell ourselves. Humans are very good at telling stories or being interested in stories. We like to read them, we like to watch them. And especially now, it's very popular to have many different social media outlets that tell stories. They tell stories about themselves, stories about other people, stories about events that are happening currently, and also stories that may be fictional. Humans in general like stories. We like stories because we are constantly telling ourselves stories. Whether we know this consciously or whether we unconsciously are falling into some sort of story plan, there is always a story plan. The point to sort of ponder on is, are the stories we're telling ourselves, are they helping us survive? Or are these stories really allowing us to live our lives? The difference being, oftentimes when we tell ourselves stories that help us simply survive, a lot of those stories are based on fear. They come from conditioning that we have been exposed to growing up. There are ego stories that we have heard from family members, or they might be just generational trauma that we may have experienced either in this life, trauma that we may have carried over from past life, trauma that we have learned from parental figures and our caregivers growing up. Truth be told, we are always telling ourselves stories. We're telling ourselves stories about our own lives, how we should live them, how situations outside should be a certain way in order for us to live that story. And often we're telling ourselves stories about how other people are living their lives. If someone is doing something right or wrong, there's a lot of judgment in stories oftentimes. We have to ask ourselves constantly, is this story right now helping me? Is it a stumbling block for me to live the life that I want to live the life that I truly was put on this earth for? How often do we tell ourselves stories that are so different from the life that we have been given? Right? Oftentimes we find ourselves suffering because of that. I should be living this life, but in reality, I'm living this life. And we get stuck in that. We get stuck in that story of, oh, this is what I have. This is what I should have. I can never have that because of all of these other reasons. So it's a story that we've told ourselves that we are believing. How about we pull things into our life, such as courage, the courage to just see things for the way they are. This is what life has brought me right now. And I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust that this is what was given to me. I was given this configuration in this life. It may not match the configuration that a friend has, or a neighbor has, or my other family members have. But this is the configuration that was given to me. This is mine. How about we open up and trust that with courage? How about we find a sense of curiosity? Okay, so I wasn't given the matchup of the story that's going on in my head, but I was given certain things. What does that mean? How does that enhance my life? What do I do with it? Can I use those tools or people or things, not in the use sense, but can I benefit from those? What can I get from those? How can I grow from those? How can I learn from those? And then finally, having a sense of humor around those reality objects, those reality people, that which is real, that which we become aware to. This is what has been given to me in my life. My story is telling me otherwise. And there's a lot of humor in that, right? I'm suffering for something that does not exist, and I'm completely ignoring or reject all that is here and that does exist. So next time you are finding yourself suffering, or you find that you're simply surviving, barely being able to pull your head out of the water, ask yourself, what are these stumbling blocks? What are these stories that I'm buying into, that I am believing, that are moving me into the survival mode as opposed to really living the life that I have been given? this abundance that has been provided to me that I can really live with.